All right, guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, we'll be breaking down our 2021 SEC predictions. I'll be riding this one solo today, but still plenty of knowledge to be dished out, and I hope you guys enjoy these predictions. So, without further ado, we'll get started. So, coming in at number one in the West Division, Alabama Crimson Tide, 12-0. The Alabama offense, they simply reload this fall, and it starts under center with the immensely talented Bryce Young. Young is an elite athlete, and he has an above-average arm strength, impressive tangibles like going through his reads, possesses a great presence in the pocket. He can also improvise when things break down. Young, he should fit nicely into this quick strike offense and could provide a similar but amplified impact to that of Jalen Hurts in 2016. The running back room at Alabama is deep, but Brian Robinson is a big body that's been leaned on for short yardage pickups at 6'1", 228, but he also runs behind his shoulder pads and embraces and fights through contact. Robinson, a shifty runner in the open field, he can make defenders miss. He's ran for over 1,300 yards and 12 scores in his career, but it's mainly been spent as a reliable second option. You also have Jason McClellan and Brian Sanders in there as well. I can't wait to see this running back room of Alabama. They're incredibly deep. Roydell Williams as well. Brian Robinson, though, very glad he came back to school. The Tide, they also have a lot of unproven talent at wide receiver, but already have two guys who were already impressive a season ago. John Mechie, he burst onto the scene in 2020, cleared things out for Devontae Smith, especially when Jalen Waddle went down. He's likely to mold into a number one after thriving in the slot this past season, catching 55 balls for over 900 yards and 6 scores, averaging nearly 17 yards per grab as well. Mechie has all the traits to develop in the Tide's next All-American at wide receiver, and should unquestionably name the way to watch this season. Tight end Jaleel Billingsley, he's a star in the making. He's listed at 6'4", 230, but he moves like a wide receiver while providing the same impact in the trenches and the red zone as you'd expect from a tight end. Billingsley, impressive athleticism. He can provide blocks up front. He's going to be utilized in every way possible for the Tide. Modest production, 18 balls, 277, 3 scores. Big-time playmaker, though. I think Billingsley is going to have a big season for Alabama. The Tide, they lack a number 2 pass catcher, though, but I.G. Hall and Ja'Cory Brooks, they're going to battle for that nod. They should see a bulk of the touches regardless. Those guys are both highly touted recruits coming out of college, or high school, that is. Those guys are going to step up. The Crimson Tide's offensive line, the second-ranked offensive line in the nation, in my opinion. They replaced a few crucial starters, but these guys just reload with these. Evan Neal, he's in a shift left tackle, but not only does he possess great size at 6'7", 360, has great strength, solid athleticism. He's a mauler in the run game and good in pass protection. But it's more than just Neal, though. Chris Owens, he's a familiar ally. He took over at center following the injury to Landon Dickerson late last year, played very well in that role. He's expected to be the starter in the middle. Alabama once again stole the show in recruiting, landing 2 of the top 5 overall recruits in 2021 in J.C. Latham and Tommy Brockmeyer. One of those guys are destined to start at right tackle this fall. This defense from Alabama, though, I think it's a vintage effort this season, as they have a ridiculous collection of talent to be tough to crack. Crimson Tide's rush defense hasn't been as dominant over the past 3 years. They allowed 3.8 yards per carry in 2019, 3.3 last year, still nowhere near 2015 to 17, as they allowed nowhere near 3 yards per catch. But defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis, he's a gap clogger on the interior for the Tide. He can also play on the outside of this 3-4, but I think we'll see a strong rotation this fall. DJ Dale, LeBron Ray, Tim Smith, 8th-ranked defensive tackle recruit in 2020 class, has impressive balance as a run stopper and pass rusher. I think we're going to see some big things from this defensive line this fall. Behind them, you won't find a better 4-man group at linebacker in college football, compiled of premier pass rushers, Will Anderson, Christopher Allen, Christian Harris, along with the addition of Tennessee transfer Henry Tioto. I love this group. These guys are going to be phenomenal this year. Anderson had 10.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks as a freshman. Allen wasn't far behind. He had 13 tackles behind the line, 6 sacks. Behind them, though, is likely the nation's top secondary, and it's going to make all around this defense immensely difficult. Josh Jobe is a freak in press, who is also an asset against the run. He hasn't allowed much of anything in coverage, not allowing a single completion of 20 yards last year. Has never given up more than 55 yards in his career in a game, along with 11 pass breakups last year. Malachi Moore, he was the nation's top slot corner last season in my estimation, and will likely retain that role, although he could make the move to either CB2 or a safety, much like Minkah Fitzpatrick did during his tenure. No real need there, though, so Moore, they can really do whatever they want with him. Daniel Wright, Jordan Battle, some other notables. Brian Branch was very good as a freshman as well last year at corner. 7 PBUs, 2 interceptions, all around Alabama. This is going to be an incredibly difficult team to beat with all they have on offense and defense. Love that unit. So, moving to Texas A&M, they are the number 2 team. I think this team's going to go 10-2 this season, 6-2 in the conference. Kellen Mond departs, but in comes Haynes King, and there's a lot to like about King, who is a dual-threat weapon that runs at 4.5 along with above-average arm talent. King is highly elusive and is expected to shine outside of the pocket, but much of his development will take place inside the tackles. King already has impressive ball placement, has a quite high ceiling. He's a name to watch in 2021. A&M will look to replicate a ground game that was among the nation's best at grinding down opponents last season. Isaiah Spillers ran for nearly 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons along with 19 touchdowns. He's going to split time with Devon Achane. He ran for 364 and 4 scores on 43 carries last year. The Aggies, though, they replaced 4 starters on the offensive line, so that's going to be a challenge for them. They've recruited very well, though, up front and get back one of the nation's best linemen in Kenyon Green. Jameer Johnson transfers from Tennessee. He's going to occupy the other tackle spot, while Luke Matthews, Layden Robinson, Naki Ojubayi are expected to join them in the lineup. The Aggie supporting cast, though, outside of that, features a lot of talent and promise. It starts with big body tight end Jalen Wedemere, 6'5", 255, great hands, a big body. He's a walking first down. Anias Smith, great versatility. He was mainly leaned on to be the team's leading pass catcher as he led the Aggies in yards with 564 on 43 grabs. He also had 6 touchdowns, but he can also provide a lot on the ground as well as a runner. Demond Demis, he's an athletic freak, former 5-star recruit, should see the field finally this season. He didn't play last year, I believe, due to academic reasons. Caleb Chapman, he's another guy, shined in the winner versus Florida last year. In the same game, you remember, he was injured. He missed the rest of the year. Hit 150-plus yards and 2 scores in that game. He was injured on that bomb of a touchdown and didn't see the field the rest of the season. Moving to this defense, though, this is, the Aggies have a premier defense. It's likely to take them as far as they get. DeMarvin Leal, defensive end, one of the nation's strongest players, has a complete game record. He has great size as well and movement. It allows him to, line up on the inside or outside. Really impressive defensive line altogether. Tyree Johnson really came out towards the end of the season. Michael Clemens was really strong as well early in the year. 4.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks in 5 games before an injury. Jaden Peavy at defensive tackle, another late bloomer. He's going to provide ample time in the lineup this fall. Love this defensive line. At linebacker, though, Buddy Johnson, he's gone. They do return Aaron Hansfield. He ranks second on the team in tackles, right behind him with 49 stops. Hansfield also had 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. He's a part of a front 6 that supported the nation's second-best rush defense. These guys are nasty up front. The secondary has a lot of potential for Texas A&M. Starts with Damani Richardson. He made some big strides in coverage last fall, while already being one of the top tacklers in the conference. Miles Jones was really good in zone last fall. Leon Neal at safety. He remains one of the most sure-handed tacklers on the team. He's also incredibly aggressive. A lot of talent for the Aggies on defense. This is all-around a really good football team. I don't think they're going to be able to compete with Alabama just yet, but they should have no problem winning double-figure games this season. Third team in the West, LSU Tigers, 9-3. I think this is a team that could seriously make some noise and win the conference, but 9-3 is the pick, and here's why. Miles Brennan, he was supposed to be back under center after a slew of injuries last year. He had shoulder surgery a couple weeks ago. He's now going to be out indefinitely. Max Johnson will take over. He was very good at the end of the year last year. If you remember, he was big in that game against Florida where they went in the swamp and upset Florida, knocked them out of the playoff race. So very happy to see Max Johnson despite the unfortunate circumstances. Well, he's got a great supporting cast to work with. I think these guys are going to do some damage. They're set at running back. Tyrion Davis-Price, John Emery. They combined for only 91 yards a game last year, but they both averaged 4.2 yards per carry. Also added Corey Kenner, a top 160 recruit in the class of 2021. He showcases a nice quick burst, fights through traffic, very deep at that position. At wide receiver, it took Kayshawn Bowdy till December to finally record more than moderate production, but he was a star over the final weeks. He had 527 yards and 4 touchdowns over the final 3 games of the season. Late November, rather, not December. But he's expected to be among the nation's top pass catchers this season. Outside of Bowdy, though, it's an inexperienced bunch. Jeray Jenkins, Coy Moore, the only other returning pass catchers to record 20-plus receptions last season. But fresh talent is on the way. 3 of the top 13 recruits, all ranked inside the top 100, are coming to Baton Rouge. Deion Smith, Brian Thompson, Chris Hilton. Reinforcements are coming for Max Johnson in this offense. This offensive line was singled out by Coach O at the end of the year, and they will need to be better this fall as I'm excited for their potential. Derek Rosenthal, he's gone. He's transferred to Kentucky from his left tackle spot, but new offensive line coach Brad Davis, he has a lot to work with regardless, especially on the interior. Ed Ingram heading the charge, while Austin DeKiels will move down to the right tackle spot. Some very youthful talent on this offensive line, but Garrett Dellinger is one of these young standouts. He's ready to step up into any role asked of him. This is going to be a big focal point of this football team, so I think this offensive line is really going to step up this season to be much better. Moving to the defense, though. New defensive coordinator, Vontae Jones. He has a lot of talent to work with, but it's not going to be immediate. This defense needs some work. They gave up 34.9 points per game and ranked dead last in pass yards per game allowed last year at 323 a game. I like this defensive line, though. We'll start with them. The depth is very ideal. They have some veteran starters. Neil Farrell and Glenn Logan, they make up the interior. That presence is going to help, but Jacqueline Roy was a beast last fall. Numerous QB hurries, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and limited action. And LSU also landed Mason Smith, 5-star recruit, 6'6", 312. He figures into the rotation. It gets better, though. You move to the second level. Ali Gay made his presence felt periodically, 9.5 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups off the edge. He has a chance to be a special player this season. He should be able to elevate himself into a day 1 or 2 selection. Andre Anthony, he actually led the team last year, 5.5 sacks. B.J. Ojolari, brother of Aziz, he's a player with a tremendously high ceiling. 5 tackles for loss. All of those came within the first 4 games, though. 3 came against South Carolina, and then he was pretty quiet with the rest of the season. So we'd like to see him with more snaps. Should have better production and more of an impact, as he was, non-existent towards the end of the season. The Tigers are set, though, at linebacker as well. Mike Jones comes over from Clemson, a really good player on coverage. A lot of people have him highly ranked on draft boards. Micah Backersville, he stepped up in 2020, 55 stops. Well, Damone Clark tied for the team high in tackles with 63. I think these guys are set. And then the secondary is the nation's best, according to most. How could it not be? Derek Stingley, Elias Ricks, they both highly ranked 5-stars that shine in their freshman season. This is unquestionably the top corner duo in football. Not much to talk about there. It's how is the rest of the secondary going to fare is the real question. Cordell Flott is in line to get the start at center. Jay Ward, he's going to move the safety. Great ball skills, 3 picks and 6 pass breakups a season ago. LSU was incredibly deep at safety, though, and talented. They added 2 of the top 4 safeties in the class of 2021 in Sage Ryan and Derek Davis. Also added from Georgia, Major Burns. So this secondary should be retooled with ease this fall, and I think that number from last year is certainly not going to be repeated whatsoever this season. Move to the Auburn Tigers at 7-5, 4-4 in the conference. They get back a good bit offensively, but Bo Nix will need to be better. Nix continued to make poor decisions with the football last year as the Tigers had multiple negative plays with Nix at the helm. He is still the best option for Auburn at quarterback, though. His dual threat nature gives him an added dimension to his game that certainly benefits this offense. Nix has rushed for 7 touchdowns in each of the past 2 seasons while throwing for 219 yards per game, which was an increase from his freshman season. 5 of Nix's 7 interceptions came in 2 games, and hopefully the Penn State native can produce much better results this fall as the talent is there. Big fan of the talent. That hasn't been displayed on the field, though. You haven't seen it translate whatsoever. Hopefully Brian Harsin, that's something they're going to work on this season, is helping him make better decisions with the football and having more chemistry with his passing game, which is going to be tough because they lose their top 3 pass catchers. But Nix, he will have Tank Bigsby at his disposal, an incredibly elusive running back that runs with an edge. Put up 834 yards and 5 touchdowns last season. The Tigers will have to lean on him to be the workhorse back, while Sean Shivers is also back to ease the pressure. But again, this passing attack is legitimate question marks. Nix wasn't great last year, as previously noted. Loses those 3 pass catchers. Demetrius Robinson does transfer over from Georgia, but the lack of experience all around will be a storyline to monitor this fall. And Robinson really hasn't had much of an impact since his freshman year at Cal, which was back in, 16, 17. So the Tigers do have the benefit of having 5 seniors on the offensive line, including Tayshawn Manning at tackle. Some impressive talent on this Auburn offense, but their passing attack is going to hold them back significantly. But the backbone of this football team will be the defense. I love this defense for the 2020 season. They get back 72% of its production from last year, but have some legit ball players. Defensive tackle Tyrone Truesdale is a key component in the middle for a rush defense. They'll need to be better this season. Derek Hall is a player that should really progress this fall. He steps into a starting role at defensive end. The Tigers, they lack too many proven commodities on the edge, so Hall is going to have to be big. Colby Wooten, though, he was a pleasant surprise last season. He stepped up for Auburn. He ended the year as the leader in tackles for loss and sacks, 9.5 and 4 respectively. Tigers do return 2 of the nation's top linebackers in Owen Pape and Zacoby McClain, who actually led the nation in tackles with 113. He should be a finalist for the Butkus Award this season. He's certainly one of the nation's top linebackers. This secondary, though, Auburn will have the privilege of fielding one of the nation's top back ends Despite ranking 79th in passing yards per game allowed last season, Roger McCreary, he's one of the most underrated corners in all of college football. He can do a bit of everything, whenever it be in the back of coverage or press, flat out making plays on the ball. He caught 3 picks while racking up 7 tackles for loss and 6 pass breakups. A do-it-all corner, Roger McCreary. On opposite side, though, Dreshaun Miller comes over from West Virginia. Tyke Smith also transferred from West Virginia to an SEC team, but he's not the only one that's going to be a standout. The Mountaineers fielded the top-ranked pass defense last season, and a big reason was because this guy is tough in zone coverage. This entire unit will be tough in zone. Safety Smoke Monday, he was all over the field last season. Had 73 stops, 2 picks. Naeem Pritchard, he was a star in his own right in the slot last season. He's also back. This secondary has a very high ceiling. This corner duo is going to be tough to crack. I think this defense is going to be very, very impactful on whatever this team's record is this season. It's mainly going to be on the heels of this defense. Arkansas Razorbacks 6-6. This offense will be led the war by KJ Jefferson. Jefferson didn't see much action in 2019 for the Hogs. Only threw 31 passes, completing 45% of them with a pick. Not much. But Jefferson impressed Sam Pittman and the rest of his coaching staff last season, which puts him in line to be the starter of the season. Last year, Jefferson started in one game, led Arkansas to a season-high 48 points in the loss to Missouri. Threw for 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. Has clearly shown improvements across 2020. Jefferson working alongside Kendall Briles. Plenty of optimism for this offense. Arkansas also ran for 151 yards per game last season, and it was for an offense that showed impressive improvements as a whole last year. And they have plenty of reason to continue to grow. Running back Traylon Smith finally saw the field in 2020. He made some good plays. 710 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5.3 yards per carry. He's a good ball player. 4-star athlete Raheem Sanders, though, he transitioned to running back. He's in a split time with Smith and T.J. Hammonds, so they're pretty deep at running back. At receiver, though, the loss of Mike Woods really hurts. He transfers to Oklahoma. The Hogs still have a really impressive receiving core, though, led by Treylon Burks. Great combo of speed, physicality, size of 6'3", 225. I love Treylon Burks. Davion Warren, he was only limited to 15 grabs last fall, but a home run hitter. He made plays in more than just special teams game, averaged 18.5 yards per catch. And then the 6'5" Trey Nix, he rounds things out. He didn't do much last season, but he's trying to get back to his freshman form. He made some big plays despite his youth. Again, this offense has a lot of upside, especially a wide receiver. The defense, though, for Sam Pittman, they took some big steps last year, and they should continue to do so this season. They get back 85% of its production. That's a lot of talent. That's a lot of players, a lot of experience. The Hogs, though, they were beaten down against the run throughout the year. That's certainly going to be a focal point for Pittman and company. Arkansas did add 3 defensive linemen from the portal this offseason, but outside of Eric Gregory, a sophomore, the Hogs lack proven bodies on the defensive front, which is going to be an issue. Linebacker is a little different, though, as the return of Grant Morgan is instrumental. Morgan is one of the nation's top cover linebackers, while at the same time was second in FBS in tackles with 111. Morgan is the type of playmaker every coach would love to have, as he is truly dynamic. Bumper Poole, yes, his name is Bumper Poole. He will be back in the lineup alongside him, making up a very formidable linebacking duo. The Hogs secondary has some really good ball players in it as well. Safety Jalen Catalon being the most notable. Brings a lot of energy to the table, pure playmaking, all around makes everyone on this defense better. Catalon, 99 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 3 picks as a redshirt freshman last season. And Ladarius Bishop, he's worth noting, made some big strides in the slot last season, as did Tark Brown, and those are 2 names that will help this secondary evolve. I think they can really start to put things together this season, especially with who they have in the middle. Arkansas, I think they could gear up to make a slight run because they have a lot of potential, but right now we're going to go 6-6. I do think this is not a team a lot of people are going to want to play this year, though. The Ole Miss Rebels, they're up next, 6-6, 2-6. A lot of people might not be happy with this prediction, as a lot of people felt Ole Miss should be in the AP Top 25. I don't see it, though, and the defense is mainly why. We'll start with the offense, though. Ole Miss, they were among the nation's leaders offensively last year. That will continue in 2021 with quarterback Matt Corral leading the charge. The biggest knock on Corral is he had 14 interceptions last year, but most of those came over a 2-game span. Corral had 5+ interceptions twice. So once in the Rebels' 4th game of the season, he had 6 against Arkansas, then he had 5 in the final game of the regular season against LSU. Other than that, though, the turnovers from he forces throws. He's got a lot of potential, though. Corral is one of the nation's top passers and looked to do so in 2021. California native had over 3,300 yards. He also ran for another 506, combined for 33 scores. 333.7 passing yards per game, was 5th in the FBS. This high passing attack, though, They also have the asset on the ground, though, in Jerry Neely. He can do a little bit of everything. He's productive as a runner and a pass catcher, can get involved in the special teams. The supporting cast, though, truly only has 3 receivers that have proven anything. Dontario Drummond, Braylon Sanders, he averaged over 26 yards per catch last season. And then Jonathan Mingo, he caught 27 balls last year. I like what they have at receiver, and then Jancor Pearson, he's expected to take on a big role in this offense. He transfers from Western Kentucky, very undersized at 5'9", 180. He's shifty, he can do damage underneath. I think Lane Kiffin's going to figure out a way to get this guy, 40, 50 catches at least this season. A lot of exciting stuff from this offense. They'll once again be unquestionably inside the top 10 in a lot of categories. As we mentioned, though, the defense is really going to hold them back. The offense, the greatness, it comes with the sacrifice of its defense. They were among the nation's worst in nearly every category last year. It's only up here from here, though, you would assume, for Lane Kiffin's bunch. 83% of production is back. Tarquise Tisdale, he's a player that comes with a lot of talent off the edge. He hasn't lived up to the expectations for Ole Miss, but is a player to watch. They're in need of pass rushing help big time. The Rebels do have veterans at linebacker and Sam Williams. He led the team in sacks with 4, along with seniors in Momo Sanogo, and Lavica Henry, but the add of Chance Campbell from Maryland's a big add. Campbell's are really good against the run, also in coverage. His playmaking prowess is going to pay big dividends for this defense. He reunites with DJ Durkin. That's his former star linebacker. I think those guys are going to make some magic this season. But outside of Campbell, the Rebels secondary, they were gashed tremendously last year. 125th in yards allowed per game. Struggled to make plays on the balls, only 6 picks. Miles Battle and Jalen Jones, they're good players. They'll need help around them. We're going to need some new faces to step up, though. But, the way you see it now, this defense is really going to hold this team back, and 6-6 is the Mississippi prediction. State Bulldogs at 5-7. It was rough waters for most of the season, as following the 623-yard passing clinic put on display by KJ Costello, the Bulldogs' offense would have struggled to even find 300 total yards in a contest, doing it only 3 other times during the year. You don't run the ball much in Mike Leach's offense to begin with, but posting only 43.9 yards per game on the ground was just inexcusable. I like to see that number go up a tad bit this fall. It's a nice QB battle. Will Rogers, he's going to battle with Southern Miss transfer Jack Abram. Better standing, Abram has a better understanding of this offense, and then the overall execution has to be better, though. So it doesn't matter who's at quarterback, the execution needs to be so much better on the ground, through the air. Osiris Mitchell, he's unfortunately departed, but the Bulldogs get back some respectable talent at pass catcher. Jaden Whaley is undersized at 6 foot 180, but he's a great route runner, legit home run hitter. 52 balls for 718 yards last season. He's going to make some big plays this year. Austin Williams, Malik Heath, and Jaquavius Marks, they all caught at least 37 balls a season ago. As you know, this offense loves to spread it out. That experience in the system, it's going to help immensely. The Dogs, they look to improve big time with 2021. They also landed Jameer Calvin from Washington State, former Mike Leach pass catcher. So that's that as well. Outside of tackle Charles Cross, the Bulldogs' offensive line, it's quite shaky. It's not very good. They're going to have to be better if this offense is going to, expect better execution. So, moving to the defense, this was actually a quite solid unit last season, overlooked by poor offensive play. MSU ranked 50th in FBS in yards per play allowed, ranked 23rd against the run. Bulldogs have a solid rotation on its defensive front, though, featuring Nathan Pickering, Charles Young, and Chaded Kremedy. Replacing Earl Thompson at linebacker, though, will be a tall task, but Aaron Brule, he had 77 tackles last season. He's a perennial playmaker. Also had 10 QB hurries. He's a very talented kid. JUCO product Deshaun Page, he's a name to watch in the middle of this Bulldogs defense. They're going to, continue to search for new faces to step up, but that is one I would expect in Page to make some big plays this year. Tyrus Wheat, he's one of those names you can count on to shine, though, this fall. There's not many of them, but he's one of them. The Bulldogs will look to continue to bolster his pass rush. He led the team with 5 sacks last season ago. I think he's going to build off that and have an even stronger season. The Bulldogs do have a very underrated secondary. I expect it to be the backbone of this defense. Martin Emerson was a real breakout star last season as a very respectable outside corner. He will continue to progress with one of the best in all of college football in 2021. That's certainly his sky-high potential. Colin Duncan, he was really good in the slot last year. You could see him move to safety. If he can provide similar play this fall where he is in the secondary, then it will do wonders for the defense. And then, topping off the back end, Emmanuel Forbes shined last season as a freshman. 5 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. He also had 3 pick sixes. Showcased his all-around playmaking skills as a freshman. Might Leach really has some guys on defense. I think I'm more excited for this defense than what this offense might provide this season. They really have some good talent. All right, moving to the East Division. The Georgia Bulldogs kick things off 11-1, 8-0 in the conference. The Bulldogs' offense, they look completely different over the final 4 games of the season with Daniels under center. JT Daniels, that is, the USC transfer. He proved his pedigree. Threw for 1,200 yards, 12 scores, 2 picks, average of 307 yards per game over the course of 4 games stretch at the end of the year. Daniels was able to stretch the field unlike any other quarterback under Kirby Smart has. Those small sample sizes are a good indication of how good this offense could be, though there turns multiple starters for 2021. The Bulldogs running game, it'll be in good hands, though. Zamir White, he's back following a near 800-yard, 11-touchdown campaign, and he's the bruiser of this backfield. James Cook is the change pace back. He can hit the end zone in the blink of an eye as a receiver and a runner. He didn't get a lot of touches last season, but he did work when he did. 8.7 yards per play on 67 touches. They need to get him involved more. If UGA can stay healthy, then it's got a good receiving core. They can do some damage with Daniels under center, but that currently is a big question mark. George Pickens, though, he's one of the most talented pass catchers in college football. He's not really got to unleash his abilities, though. Until Daniels took over center, that could lead for a big year for this duo. Pickens, though, he's still coming back from a torn ACL. Kyrus Jackson, Pickens and Jackson tied for a team high of 36 receptions, while Jackson had 1 less yard than him. I believe he was 517. That's what his yardage total was last year. Jermaine Burton, he's another guy I'm a big fan of. He stepped up, made plays at times for Georgia. They also have 2 tight ends in Darnell Washington and the former highly touted recruit Eric Gilbert, who comes over from LSU. These guys aren't very healthy, though. Pickens, Burton, Gilbert, you name it. A lot of uncertainty at receiver for the Bulldogs. We're not sure their status on week 1, so that's certainly a storyline to watch. No concerns for the defense, though. Georgia has fielded the top-ranked rush defense in each of the past 2 seasons. They get back to defensive tackle Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt. That's going to go a long way in making that, 3 straight years of the top-ranked rush D. The Bulldogs' front 7 as a whole, though, is probably the nation's best. Adam Anderson is expected to emerge as the team's next star pass rusher. Nakobe Dean, he's a great run stopper. Him and Quay Walker, they're going to be massive in helping determine this defensive success from the middle of this defense. Georgia, their secondary has some big question marks. They lost 4 key players for last year's unit, but they should just reload with ease, regardless. Ultra-physical Lewis Signs back at safety. But let's introduce you to the other guys that will be joining him. Tyke Smith, among the nation's top slot corners last season at West Virginia. Overall, a physical playmaker, though. He should do elite things in this defense. Freshman Nyland Green and Keely Ringo, he was the top-ranked corner 2 years ago. Incredibly talented. They're going to be thrust into action early in the season. The addition of Darian Kendrick from Clemson should help alleviate any pressure off these young men, but overall, come the end of the season, this entire defense should be booming. Next up, the Missouri Tigers, 8-4, 5-3. Connor Blazlett comes into 2021 with a good deal of expectations, and he was impressive at times over the course of this freshman season for the Tigers. He threw for 2,300 yards, 7 scores, but he had 6 picks. Not phenomenal numbers, but they were over 226 yards per game. Despite the struggles, though, he had displayed his abilities well. He threw for 400-plus and 4 scores on an 85% comp rate against LSU. Of course, yes, that defense, as we mentioned earlier, was one of the worst. It was the worst pass defense in football. But still, he's got playmaking prowess. He can play at a high level. The Ohio native led the Tigers downfield for the game-winning score versus Arkansas, finishing the game with 380 yards, that is. Played very well despite no scores of his own. The team scored 50 points. I expect him to make some big strides in 2021, as does, a plethora of other people. Missouri's supporting cast, though, comes with some question marks. Their third leading pass catcher season ago is their starting running back in Tyler Beatty. He only ran for 242 yards and 4 scores last year, but caught 28 balls for over 300 yards. Should be highly productive this season. They're going to get involved a lot. Kiki Chisholm was the Tigers' leading pass catcher last year. He's back along with Toski, Dove, and Barrett Benster. 4 of 6 players being named right there caught at least 27 passes last year, while Ohio State transfer Mookie Cooper should find time in the rotation. Well, overall, inexperience, the lack of playmakers. They have them on the roster, but they're going to have to step up and prove that they are what they say they are. So, Tigers defense gives us the impression it was really good, but in reality, it wasn't last year. Missouri will need to be better, and starts up front with one of the nation's top interior weapons, Kobe Whiteside. 6'1", 300-pounder, great get-off, impressive power. When fully healthy, this guy's a train. He's one of the top defensive tackles in all of college football. Alongside him, Akil Byers. He's a good player. Trajan Jeffcoat as well was among the team's top pass rusher last year. 6 sacks, 7 QB hurries. These guys have some ball players up front. Replacing Nick Bolton is not easy. But Devin Nicholson, highly productive himself last year. 82 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. Safety Jelani Williams. He's a good player. He should showcase his talents this fall. As he's forced into the lineup, but much like him, the rest of the secondary is leaning on inexperience. Tigers did land a pair of corner transfers from Tulsa, Ollie Green, Caleb Evans. It's going to help those concerns a bit, but players like Ennis Rackstraw and Jalen Charles will battle for starting roles as well. Versatile safety Marquez Manuel, though. He's a player that will be making players all over the field this season. He can play deep in the back end or in the slot. Expect good things from Manuel this season. The Florida Gators at 8-4. The Gators' offense will be forced to place a lot of production from last season, which means this unit is likely to take a step back, but they have plenty of reason to be optimistic. Emory Jones, he's going to be tasked with replacing Kyle Trask, who was arguably the nation's top passer last year. Jones brings a skill set that has typically thrived under Dan Mullins. He can make plays through the air while also bringing skillful running to the table. Jones runs with physicality and shiftiness. He's also got a strong arm that allows him to air it out. Jones has accounted for 13 scores in 3 seasons, with limited appearances during his Florida career, but big things are expected out of Jones. His talent will speak for itself, but the production part as well we're most excited to see. Florida is pretty deep at running back, though. Malik Davis leads the charge. DeMarcus Bowman comes over from Clemson. He's certain to make an impact this season, but the focus on Davis, he took some big steps as a pass catcher last year. 31 passes for over 400 yards. That's great production from a running back pass catcher. Florida ran for, just a modest 131 a game, but they did average 4.2 yards per carry. And they're incredibly deep. Damian Pierce, he was the Gators' leading rusher, 503, 4 scores. You're going to see these guys get involved in the different facets of the game, I think, because they're going to need it. Florida's fairly unproven at wide receiver. Justin Shorter, Jacob Copeland, they were mainstays in the offense last season. They should emerge as the top pass catchers. Xavier Henderson, highly touted recruit in the class of 2020. He's going to find some time in the lineup himself. So plenty of reason to be optimistic for Florida on offense. The Gators get back 70% of production on defense. There's a lot to like about this unit heading into 2021. Florida did rank 7th nationally in sacks with 35 a season ago. They get back their wonderful front 7. Brenton Cox, Zachary Carter off the edge, Antonio Shelton, Antonio Valentino now. They're going to anchor down the interior defensive line. Jeremiah Moon, he made waves off the edge last season. He can also play in coverage. So some good players in the front 7. Doesn't end there, though. Ventrell Miller at linebacker, big time. He was outstanding throughout the season. All facets of the game. Good run stopper, great in coverage, sideline to sideline. High-end tackler, 86 stops on the year. Great player. In the back end, the Gators, they've one of the nation's top corners in Kier Elam. Great press defender. I really like veteran safety Trey Dean. He's back. A few names, though, are going to be welcome to the lineup. Trevez Johnson, Jaden Hill, Jason Marshall, Jadarius Perkins. He's a JUCO standout, brings versatility and speed to the table. I think those are the big names you're going to see emerge in the secondary as the next big playmakers for Florida. The Kentucky Wildcats, 7-5. Kentucky's passing game struggled big time. Terry Wilson, our center. But I think we should see some growth this fall. Penn State transfer Will Levis has been named the starter. Joey Gatewood has entered the transfer portal once again. Gatewood, he was an athletic specimen. He struggled last season in his one opportunity against Georgia. But Levis comes in, he takes the job. 6'3", 220-pounder. Throws a tight and accurate spiral. Struggled to make much happen in his limited appearances. He possesses some dual threat nature as well, though. He rushed 15+ times on 4 separate occasions last season. Penn State certainly got him involved. UK has yet to average 30 points per game for a season since 2016. Only once. That was the only time since 2013 under Mark Stoops they have scored over 30 a game in a season. They won't do that again this year unless their aerial attack can make some strides, but they do have a strong offensive line led by tackle Darren Kennard. Strong group of runners. They also landed Dare Rosenthal from LSU. They should be able to accomplish that feat, if they can get some balance going, because Chris Rodriguez, he's one of the nation's most underrated backs. Elusiveness, explosiveness. He's highly impressive. Cavoursier Smoke, he'll join him in the backfield. Player who didn't see much time last season in the rotation, but had 600 yards on over 6 a carry back in 2019. Kind of concerning this receiving core. They got a great duo, though. Josh Ali caught 54 balls for 473 last year. Wan'Dale Robinson, though, that ad is big for them. He's a great ball carrier, pass catcher as well. Versatility is among the nation's best. Robinson's going to be a big generator for this offense, and, they desperately need help at pass catcher, and he's going to provide that. This defense for Wildcats, they get back 60% of production. It's actually a pretty solid unit last year. Finding pass rushing is going to be a real chore, though, for the Wildcats. Josh Paschal is one of the only improving forces off the edge. And he only had 1 sack last year, so he did have 6 tackles for loss, but that's the only proven commodity, and he only had 1 sack, so, big concerns. Hybrid Jordan Wright, he's a player to watch. He made some big plays against the run, very consistent in coverage. DeAndre Square as well at linebacker, following a very respectable season. He ranked 3rd on the team in tackles. Yusuf Coker, back at safety, another guy I really like. Made big strides this past year as a box run defender. He's already very impressive in coverage, so providing some more of his natures in the box, rather. This guy's a good player. I think he can land on one of the all-conference teams for sure. The talent is there. Interested to see how he plays this season, as they're going to expect him to do a lot. The Tennessee Volunteers, 4-8, 1-7 in conference. New head coach Josh Heupel, though, he brings a good quarterback to Knoxville with him and Hendon Hooker from VT. Even with the looming sanctions, Tennessee faces Hendon Hooker's fully committed to the Volunteers. He's an impressive dual-threat talent. 36 touchdowns over his last 2 years at Virginia Tech. Reliable playmaker, something UT lacked at QB under Jimmy Pruitt, and a player that should truly shine in Heupel's system. While the rest of the program remains afoot, Joe Milton was highly recruited by Josh Heupel. He's an Orlando native. He'll also be there at quarterback in case they need his services. He transfers from Michigan. The Vols do have a respectable offensive line, though. Cade Mays, Darnell Wright, former highly touted recruits. Supporting cast, though, took big hits this offseason. It's nothing new. There's going to be a lot of new faces, a lot of inexperience, as typical with the Vols. Jabari Small, Tyon Evans, top-ranked JUCO prospect, Jalen Wright. They're all going to battle for time in the backfield. Velas Jones was the Vols' second-ranked pass catcher last season. While Jalen Hyatt made some good plays as a freshman, it's mainly a core made up of, as noted, inexperience. The Vols' defense, Tim Banks had his hands full with this defense. That doesn't field a lot of veterans or talent. Safety Jade McCullough was a standout in coverage last season, also finding to make 43 tackles. His counterpart, Trayvon Flowers, was just as good in coverage last season. Defensive tackle, Aubrey Solomon, he's one of the nation's top run stoppers, but he will need to be a better pass rusher, to fully showcase his talents. For another former Michigan player, Juwan Mitchell, though, this is a big add. He transfers over from Texas, fills the void at linebacker. 30 key departures plague the middle of this defense. He'll do as much as he can. There's going to be a lot of young players at linebacker following all those departures. Outside corner, it's going to be an issue for the Vols. Despite Alontae Taylor being a solid player, this unit lacks proven cover corners or great depth. There's a lot of looming sanctions with Tennessee for those with presumable recruiting violations that led to Jeremy Pruitt being fired. So this program's got a lot of work to do. I think Josh Heupel is the right hire. They brought the AD over from UCF as well. So I think these guys are really going to start building up a nice program. It's going to take a long time though with Tennessee. I think they're in some serious trouble. But the fans are so loyal, and I think they should be able to still attract some solid players. So be interesting to see what they do. But 4-8 is the prediction. Shane Beamer has some high potential at quarterback, and Luke Dottie. South Carolina, I have them going 4-8 as well. I like Dottie, though. He struggled tremendously a season ago. Brings a lot of talent to the table for Beamer. He's been all around. He's been around some elite quarterbacks over the past couple seasons at Oklahoma. So hopefully he can bring some of that knowledge to Columbia. Dottie completed only 43 of his 71 passes last year, 4 of 5 in 3 games. He struggled to complete the ball to open pass catchers, or even be in the area of them sometimes, covered or not. But Dottie does have that talent. 4th-ranked dual-threat QB in the class of 2020. He has great qualities as a runner and overall football player, and a competitor and a winner. He showcased his ability to make plays vertically with his arm in high school, and the Gamecocks are hoping he can start to put that skill set together in 2021. It kicks off the rebuild in Columbia. Kevin Harris at running back, incredibly tough runner. His skills and size powered him to over 1,100 yards, 15 scores. And what was the lone bright spot for this SC offense last year? Doesn't stop there at running back, though. Marshawn Lloyd, 43rd ranked prospect in the class of 2020. Figures in the rotation in some way. A lot of talent on his end. The Gamecocks, though, they're inexperienced wide receiver. Nick Muse at tight end is the only one that received significant playing time last year. Josh Vann, Jalen Brooks, I think those are some guys you're going to see step up this year. Better QB play should help this offense start, transcend a little bit. I think if Dottie can start to put it together with Beamer, calling the shots. This offense could certainly, shock some people last year. When you have a great running back like Harris, heading the charge. Plenty of potential for the Gamecocks, but it's going to be a learning year and a building year. So, I love the Gamecocks defensive front. It's going to leave its mark on the conference, I think. Defensive end Aaron Sterling grew up. He grew up as a pass rusher last season. He's already a reliable run defender. You can count on him. Jordan Strawn, Camden County native, led the nation in sacks last season. He also added 14 tackles for loss over the course of a breakout season with Georgia State. He comes over to SC, and opposite side of him is Kingsley Inagbar. He had 6 sacks of his own. He projects as a first-round talent. A lot of people are very high on Kingsley. And then anchoring down the defensive tackle, Zach Pickens, former 5-star recruit. He's yet to blossom, but he's loaded with skill. It's one of those guys, he should shine with a new coaching staff. All around, this defensive line is incredibly talented. A lot of very good players. So, that's that. Moving to the back end, Jalen Dickerson at safety, breakout player of the watch. David Spalding, though, he provides value in the slot. RJ Roderick, he'll be alongside Dickerson. He's a guy a lot of people are high on, but nonetheless, some serious work needs to be done to correct a defense allowed 36 points per game a season ago. Capping things off is Vanderbilt Commodores at 2-10. They get back 75% of offense production, and that includes quarterback Cam Seals. He was actually the only bright spot for this offense last year for the Doors. His accuracy, ball placement, touch, it was impressive. He threw for nearly 2,000 yards, started in all 9 games, 12 touchdowns, 10 picks, produced 3 300-yard games. Seals showed off impressive ability to consistently deliver downfield throws. He has plenty of promise. He's going to be a focal point of the offense for new head coach Clark Lea as he begins his term in Nashville. The Doors, though, they have a very underrated receiving room, features some good depth. 5 players caught 25-plus passes a season ago, with no one else on the roster breaking double figures, but 3 of those players are back. Cam Johnson, he's one of them. 56 receptions, 545. Really shined in the slot in 2020. Amir Abdur-Rahman averaged over 15 yards per catch as the team's second leading pass catcher. 6'4", that frame allows him to pull up down jump balls with ease. Ramon Davis, tough, sturdy runner, transfers from Temple. He fills the void left by Kevon Henry Brooks, and he can hopefully lift a rushing attack that averaged only 110 yards per game last season. It's pretty doubtful, but Davis has some very good, traits that I think he can be in for a very solid season. Next, this defense, it's not going to be great. Clark Lea, this is his bread and butter, but year one, it's going to be tough. Vandy was among the nation's worst defensively a season ago. Significantly lack the talent to instantly see improvements. That's my biggest concern with them. Safety, Brendan Harris, though. He made some big improvements last year, especially in coverage. All around, this defense doesn't have proven defenders. Anthony Orji was the Doors' leading tackler last year, 66 stops. DB Jalen Mahoney, he's a good player as well, but this defense, again, they lack the ability to force turnovers. They didn't generate a pass rush, and they just flat out didn't play very good football last season. I don't think you're going to see many improvements in year one, but Clark Lea, I think he's the right man for the job as a Vanderbilt alum. I think he's going to get a long, long leash in Nashville, as they certainly need a savior. Even when they had good players under Derek Mason, they still couldn't string together a winning season. So that's going to wrap things up for today. This is my SEC predictions. I think this is all around, one of the nation's top conference. Those are my predictions. If you disagree, leave a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.